Hi, my name is Mia. I am a knitter and crocheter based in Scotland, and today I'm coming to you from a slightly different angle. I usually like to film just in front of the window in daylight, but we've got some neighbours who are having work done at the minute during the day, so I had to go at night, which means I'm kind of mucking about with a ring light at the minute. I'm not super confident with it yet. It also means I can't wear my glasses because otherwise you have giant circles in front of my eyes, so hopefully this video still kind of looks and sounds okay, but we're working with what we've got. Today I kind of just wanted to go through all of my works in progress, some finished objects, that kind of thing. I feel like I haven't done a proper update on my works in progress in a while, so there's quite a bit of progress on a couple of pieces that I'm quite happy about, and I've also started things, some that I should have, some that I kind of shouldn't, but needed a project that I could do on the go, so you know, it is what it is. But yeah, I thought I would just do a little bit of a progress update on my current projects. So the first thing, I'm not gonna lie, I finished a good couple of weeks ago, and for that reason it has seen a lot of wear and is already looking a little bit sad compared to when it first got finished, but the point of knitwear is to wear it, so you know, I'm not that fussed about it. The first thing that I have finished is the socks that I've been working on since like last summer. These are finally actually off of my needles. They have been worn, they fit like a glove, so that's really good to know. I wasn't 100% sure what kind of sizes work for me, and these are absolutely perfect for me, which is really exciting. So I'm really pleased with the leg length. I feel like I could go down a little bit if I wanted to, if I wanted some quick socks or if I didn't have a huge amount of yarn left. But I am happy with the length of these. I love how the heel construction came out. I don't know if I think it's the prettiest ever, but it is definitely the most comfortable that I've tried, and the easiest to get over my foot and that kind of thing. And the toe is just kind of your standard, is it a box toe construction? I'm not sure. But yeah, they fit perfectly as well. I'm really pleased with how these came out. I think the self-striping yarn is really cute. I love the colours. And yeah, I finally have a second pair of socks that I can actually wear. I have a habit of making them more for other people than myself, so it's nice to have more for me. I'm sure I mentioned last time, these are the vanilla socks by the Crazy Sock Lady, and I'm using West Yorkshire Spinners Signature 4-ply. This is the colour Wood Pigeon, so it's got some beautiful kind of purpley tones, some pinks and some greys, and a little bit of white, a little bit of dark blue I would say as well. So yeah, I really love these colours, as you can kind of tell, and I'm really pleased with how these came out. For reference, if it's helpful at all, I wear a women's size 5, a UK size 5 shoe. I made the medium size. I didn't size up in the needles, but my sock knitting gauge tends to be quite tight, so they've come out smaller than the medium says they should. But if your gauge is also tight and you're also that shoe size, that information might be helpful. I tend to have to size up needles when I'm making socks and size down needles if I'm making anything else. I don't know if it's just because the stitches are so small and I'm so scared of making them like gappy and loose. I tend to knit really tightly with socks, but with other things I guess my gauge is looser, so I have to size down my needles. But you know, you do what works with the pattern. As long as you meet gauge, I feel like you're fine. I didn't quite meet gauge, but I just did the size up and I got away with it. So while we're on the topic of socks, I will move on to my first work in progress, which is another pair of socks that I did mention last time but hadn't started. So I mentioned that my local yarn shop was going to buy in some DK sock yarn that was actually still a wool nylon blend. They got that in and I went in the first day that they had it in stock. The lady actually gave me a discount because I was the first to buy it, which was the sweetest thing ever. This is why you should support your local shops. So I picked up a ball in the colour blues, and you can see it's a sort of variegated blue yarn. There's loads of light and I would say medium tones. It doesn't go super dark. It's sort of on that like royal blue scale, I would say. It's the ColourLab sock British wool DK, and it's also by West Yorkshire Spinners. So they've got, I think they're all based on genres of music. There's like jazz colours and that kind of thing, but it is still 75% wool, 25% nylon. So it is like proper sock yarn, but it's DK, so they work up way faster and they're nice and comfy and cozy. I've made some DK socks for my partner before, but they were acrylic yarn, I think, so they're like comfortable to wear, but they're not the best for temperature regulation, and obviously they won't wear quite as well. So because it's DK, they work up super quickly, and for that reason I already have one off the needles, which is kind of unheard of for me. Usually socks take me a while because they're quite repetitive, so they're not usually my go-to, but because this is DK, it works up super quickly and it's much more motivating. So first sock is finished. I love the variegation in these. I just think they're so much fun. It's the same sock, like Crazy Sock Lady vanilla sock pattern, but the DK version. I would recommend both, to be honest. They're both really easy to follow and I've never had any issues with them size wise or anything like that. I'm pretty sure I used the recommended needle size for this pattern. Like I said, it's the small size of the stitches in socks that usually throws off my gauge, and because this is DK I don't have that problem, so I tend to be okay just doing it with the needle size recommended, so that's what I did. I believe I made them a size medium, and these really flew off the needles. I'm pretty sure I got this done within a week of working on it every now and then, so that for me is very quick. It's a really easy yarn to work with. It's not like super rough, but I can feel that it's gonna last okay. It's not like a super soft yarn. It's the same kind of construction as the fingering weight version, so it's still really easy to follow, and it does absolutely fly off the needles because you have far fewer stitches to work, and the stitches you do work are bigger, so they take up more space. You get through it really quickly. But yeah, I really enjoyed working on these. I'd like to get the other ones started and finished within the next couple of weeks, but this is a super busy period for me, so we'll see if I actually manage that. Whenever I get time to knit, when I'm busy, I tend to just pick up something that I can keep working on. So things like my cardigan, or if I've started a sock, I will happily work on. But if I have to sit and think to cast on a project and follow the pattern, and for things like this you're kind of counting rows, so it takes a bit more attention. It takes me a minute to motivate myself to actually get it started, but then once I do, it flies off. So we'll see when I get around to actually casting it on. Speaking of casting on, the next project I have to show you is one that I had neither started nor planned in the last couple of videos. It was sort of a spur of the moment cast on. It was a Saturday night. I knew that I was going to church in the morning, and I knew I didn't have a project that I could bring with me. I like to knit when I'm in church just because it helps me to concentrate, to have something to do with my hands. And I knew I didn't have anything that I could just bring with me because I was coming up to buttonhole my cardigan, I was coming up to either the heel or the toe of my socks, and I needed something that I could just work away at without thinking about it. So I mentioned in my last video that I had some Devonia DK yarn in the colour Shroom from NervusFibre in Glasgow, and I didn't have any particular projects in mind for it. I was thinking about maybe doing an Oslo hat, but then I went through my hat patterns and realised that I had bought but never made the November beanie by NovemberKnits, and I thought, well, this is kind of the perfect opportunity to use up some yarn and try out a new pattern. I think I bought it when she had a sale running at some point because I knew I wanted to make it, but I wasn't ready to cast it on then. But the first like 13 centimetres or something like that are just straight up rib, so I knew that I could do it mindlessly. So I cast that on quickly on the Saturday night, brought it with me on the Sunday morning, and so far this is all I have. So I literally just worked on it that once. I'm loving how the ribbing looks in this colour. I think it's really pretty. It's more purple in person than it's coming up on camera. There is definitely a warmth to it that just isn't coming across. But I think this hat pattern is a really interesting one. I'm excited to see how it does work up. Only issue is I don't know how quickly I'm going to get through it because I have other projects I want to prioritise. So this might just be like my church bag project that I bring with me when I'm going to service and kind of ignore the rest of the time, I guess. I am excited to have it, but I think it might go to the wayside during the summer. It's threatening to start warming up in Scotland. It's not there yet, but my fingers are crossed that it's around the corner because I'm really sick of the grey weather at this point. But it's not so cold that you need a hat, so I'm not motivated to make myself a new one. So yeah, I don't really know when this project is going to be worked on. It might literally just be a church knitting project, but either way, it has been cast on, so I'll show you it. Like I said, November Beanie by NovemberKnits, and the colour is Shroom in the Devonia DK by NervusFibre. So the next work in progress I have to show you, I've actually made a lot more progress on than I expected I would, and it is my Field Day Cardigan by Ozetta. So you can see I've just started, like literally just started this little sleeve, because I have already finished the entire length of the body and the ribbing at the bottom. It's kind of hard to show you the whole thing because it's quite long. To be honest, it's come out larger than I expected it to in general. I think it's going to be a more oversized fit than I realised. I maybe should have made an extra small, but you know, an oversized cardigan isn't a bad thing, so I'm not upset about it by any means. I've got 4 buttonholes made on this side, 1, 2, 3, 4, and I've marked where my buttons will be on the other side, just with some stitch markers. I do actually have the buttons for this cardigan in my stash. They were bought just because I liked the colour. I think they're a coconut button. I haven't decided which way around I'm going to do it, because like a lot of coconut shell buttons, it's got like a lighter side and a darker one, and they're slightly different shapes. So I'll see when the sleeves are finished what colour I decide to go for. But I'm really pleased with how this is coming out. It is super squishy. I absolutely love the colour. I'm not going to say I have the neatest knitting ever, because I'm working flat and that's really not something that I'm used to. I don't really know how my purl gauge lines up with my knit gauge, so it might just be that they're slightly different and that's what's creating the kind of inconsistencies. But I think a lot of this is going to block out. The one thing that I have noticed about this cardigan pattern is there are a lot of kind of stops and starts. Like I've got a lot of just loose bits of yarn hanging off of this. I don't know if that's normal for cardigans because I have never made one before. This will be my first, so it might just be that I'm not used to kind of the repercussions of working flat and making cardigans rather than sweaters, which you can just do in the round. But they don't tend to get too much in the way. Realistically, if they bothered me that much, I could have just sewn them in by now, and I haven't, so it's sort of self-inflicted. But yeah, the fact that I'm on the sleeves now, I feel like I'm really motivated to get this finished. Sleeves to me feels like a sign that you're almost there. And the fact that it's worked in the round as well means that hopefully I'll be able to get through it a bit faster, because I'm definitely a faster knitter than I am at purling. So yeah, I'm still really enjoying this project. I feel like I'm learning a lot from it. I'm still loving working with this yarn. It is the Plymouth Yarns Sea Isle in the colour Sand Dollar, and I absolutely love this colourway. I think it's so pretty. There's just the slightest bit of variegation. You can't see it super well on camera, but it literally looks sandy, which I love. It's a chainette yarn, which I haven't worked with before. I'm finding it quite, I don't know what the word is, like it's kind of clingy, if that makes sense. Like it does cling to my clothes when I'm working with it, but it doesn't bother me too much. I don't know how I'm going to get on with the amount of yarn that I bought. I bought 4 balls because that's about what's recommended in the pattern, and I'm just starting my last ball to start the sleeves. So if I've used 3 to make the body, having 1 left to make the sleeves doesn't feel like loads. But I'm just going to see how I get on with the first sleeve, and if I have to buy more, I have to buy more. I'll just kind of have to pray that it's in a similar dye lot. But yeah, I'm really pleased with how this is working. I'm learning so many new things making this project, which I always think is great. I feel like for the most part it's coming out pretty nicely. Again, I do think it's going to be quite oversized, but I'm not too upset about that. I used tubular bind off for the hem at the bottom. Not the neatest, not the worst, is kind of how I feel about it, to be honest. But again, I think that things that make it look handmade aren't a bad thing. Like, this is a cardigan that I made, and if you can tell, then I'm very much okay with that. But yeah, I've picked up for the sleeves, just working on that at the minute. I'm almost at the first round of decreases, and I love decreasing working on sleeves because every round just gets slightly faster and faster, which is very motivating for me. So yeah, I'm really excited still about how this is working up. I really love how the pattern is written. I feel like it's quite clear, which is nice. I feel like no matter what level of knitting you're at, you would be able to follow Ozetta's patterns. It's just kind of, it's fairly clear. I like it a lot. So hopefully this will be a bit closer to finish next time I bring it up. Maybe I'll have a sleeve done, I hope so. Maybe I'll have caved and attached the buttons to make myself feel like I'm getting there. But I'm really enjoying working this cardigan up. It's a lot of fun. And my final work in progress is always the one that I'm the most excited about. I haven't showed it on this in ages, so I feel like it's got a lot of progress to talk about, which is fun. Only problem I'm having is the weather is not making this the most exciting project. So this is my temperature blanket update, the granny square version. I'm holding it upside down, which isn't very helpful. Yeah, you can see the first 2 weeks of January where we had colder temperatures. Then we got to these kind of colours, which means it's still getting to below freezing, but it's also getting above 10 degrees. We had 1 week where it didn't go below freezing, and every week since then we have still been getting below freezing. So if Scotland could please hurry up and warm up a little bit, I would really appreciate it. I'm very sick of the below freezing temperatures and the grey and the wet. I'm really very ready for spring. There's daffodils and things like that coming up, but when the weather is still rubbish, it still doesn't feel like spring to me. So I'm really looking forward to sunshine and lambs and all of that kind of thing. Because yeah, there's a lot of monotony on this blanket so far. More than half of my squares are the exact same colours, which I didn't anticipate when I started this. Usually there's a bit more variety in the weather at this time of year, but it has just been cold and wet and grey for quite a while, especially at night or early in the mornings. We're just not having a lot of luck. So even though you're getting to above 10 degrees and you're thinking, oh, maybe it's warming up a bit, no, you're still getting below freezing every single week. So my fingers are crossed that in the next week it's going to eventually start picking up. In case you haven't seen my previous videos, the reason I have an extra one on this side is I'm going to make every corner the hottest and coldest temperatures of the entire year, and that will bring me up to an even 56 squares, so I should be able to get a rectangle out of my blanket rather than having a funny shape or anything. So this is the first 11 weeks. I kind of can't believe we're 11 weeks into the year already. But yeah, most of them are looking pretty similar. I've been joining as I go, which I still think is definitely the way to do it. Not only is it fun to actually see the blanket grow, but it will save me a lot of heartache when it gets finished. I'm also sewing in my little tails when I'm weaving them together, so getting that done is also really helpful. Hopefully by the time they're all complete, I will just be able to add a border, give it one last block, and that should be me. So yeah, I feel like I'm getting somewhere with this, which is really exciting. It is definitely, I'm really pleased with this project. It's a lot of fun. I am happy with my colour choices, even though I haven't got to use that many of them yet. So yeah, I feel like I'm getting somewhere. The only thing I am noticing is I definitely did not buy enough of the white yarn at all. So I'm working with the Valley Yarns Northampton line, and the colour that I'm using as kind of the base for the whole blanket is the colour Natural. I bought 2 balls before I had kind of decided exactly what I wanted the granny squares to look like. I then decided I wanted 3 rows of the Natural and to join it with the Natural. So as you can imagine, for a giant blanket, I'm going to need more than 2 balls of yarn. I'm already, I would say probably about 2/3 of the way through the first ball. So if I'm only 11 weeks into the year, I can't see that lasting me unless I'm incredibly lucky. But I think I'd probably do the border in the natural colour as well, so chances of that happening are slim to none. So I probably need to buy more of that. I'll need to double check my dye lot again and get that done, maybe sooner rather than later, just to be on the safe side. But yeah, I'm going through it a lot faster than I expected to, so, you know, you learn as you go. But yeah, I'm just really pleased with how this is going. I'm really happy with this project as like a concept. I think it's going to be so lovely in my living room. I've kind of gone for a sort of green theme, so I feel like the fact that there's a lot of green actually isn't too much of a bad thing. But yeah, it's definitely a long-term project that I'm really enjoying. I'm not struggling to keep up with it or anything because I kept the granny squares that small, like just one a week. I found it really, really manageable. Just at the end of every week, I have a look at the past weather, I realise what colours I'm using, and it takes me about half an hour total. So it is super, super manageable if you do struggle with timekeeping for a granny square for temperature blankets, because I know a lot of them can be very time consuming. I really recommend doing it this way because it's a lot of fun and it really is very easy to keep up with. So that is all of the knitting and a little bit of crochet that I've managed to get done in the last month or so. I do tend to be quite a slow knitter, so to be honest, finishing a pair of socks, starting another pair of socks, working quite hard on that cardigan, I feel like I've done quite well in the last few weeks because they have still been quite busy for me. So if the progress continues like that throughout the year, I feel like I'm on track for the number of things that I wanted to get done in my 2024 plans. So yeah, I'm really pleased with how all of my projects are going. I'm having a lot of fun with it. I would love if you would tell me in the comments what you're working on just now, what your thoughts are on my projects, if you have any tips or tricks for me, because I'm still definitely a beginner. That would be really helpful. But yeah, thank you so much for tuning in, and I'll see you again in a couple of weeks. Bye!